our exports to our partner countries, say ASEAN, Japan, Korea, they are increasing, our imports are increasing at double the speed. For example, our trade deficit in the past 15 years has increased by 3 times from ASEAN, Japan, and South Korea combined compared to the rest of the world. So, rest of the world has the trade deficit increased by 1.5 times.
What would constitute a good US deal, maybe from India's perspective?
US is an important trade partner for India, and I would love to have a free trade agreement with the US. But we should have the FTAs like we do with the rest of the world. Aluminium door can come from ASEAN country at zero tariffs in India. But aluminium, I have to buy, say, from China, with which I don't have an FTA at 7.5% tariff. So why anybody will make the doors in India? So this is called inverted duty structure, when the duty on input is higher than the duty on the finished product. So this is against Make in India. I say, suppose we are importing 10,000 items from China and Vietnam. How many of these we can make in India? For example, why we need to import knives, sharpeners, nuts and bolts, small motors? You have been making these for more than 50 years. You have to identify 10,000 such products, and technology is not a problem. We should reverse engineer them to the world class.
For decades, globalization was driven by the belief that free trade would create greater prosperity. But today, the world is rapidly changing. Tariffs are making a comeback. Supply chains are being redrawn. Industrial policy is back in focus, and geopolitics is increasingly shaping trade decisions. As India negotiates a series of major free trade agreements, critical questions arise. Are these deals truly in India's long-term interest? Can they strengthen manufacturing, boost exports, and attract investment? Or will they expose new vulnerabilities? Mr. Srivastava, let's start with something bigger. I want to draw a bigger picture right at the start, sir. If I ask you, are we witnessing an end of free trade era, sir?
Today, more than 80% of the world trade happens as per the WTO rules. So those rules have been agreed by most of the world, and the trade happens on those rules. But if we talk about US is the major violator of the trade rules. So since US is taking the lead, many countries like China or economies like European Union, they also have turned protectionist. So the three economies, US, European Union, and China, who have who have contributed significantly in the growth of the world trade, they have become the major economies who are dragging it back. So I say free trade is not dead, but of course, big countries are turning protectionist.
If we talk about the FTAs that India is signing, it's on a signing spree at the moment. We see almost 60% of India's trade can soon be covered by these free trade agreements. We see India-UK deal coming in this month only. Then we see India-EU deal maybe ready or maybe concluded by next year. Already India-US deal is in works. So it's not the first time that India is signing so many FTAs. Even in the past, we have seen India signing FTAs. But there were limited gains that these FTAs delivered to India. I want to come straight to you, sir. Have we learned something from our mistakes, or are we designing the FTAs in that way, keeping those things in mind?
Let's have some data, Ashish, here. So we have 17 free trade agreements so far, and we are very close to implementing FTA with the European Union. And we may be doing an FTA with the US and many other countries. When all these are done, mostly within a year or two, our 75% of the exports will be through our FTA partner countries. So now, whether we are planning new FTAs in a better way than the old, to answer that question, let's understand the key concern. In the old FTAs, the key concern is that whereas our exports to our partner countries, say ASEAN, Japan, Korea, they are increasing, our imports are increasing at double the speed. For example, our trade deficit in the past 15 years has increased by 3 times from ASEAN, Japan, and South Korea combined compared to the rest of the world. So, rest of the world has the trade deficit has increased by 1.5 times. With these FTA partners, 3 times. The same trend, I'm afraid, is visible in the new FTAs also. For example, our exports, current exports to countries like Switzerland, with which we signed FTA, Australia, UAE, Mauritius, etc. Our exports are $50 billion and imports are just the double, $100 billion. So deficit is increasing, exports are increasing, but imports are rising at double the rate.
We are seeing India-US trade deal happening right now, sir. What do you think, sir? Where are the talks headed currently? And the other thing is, when realistically can we see the trade happening on the ground?
Right now, nobody knows where it's headed, and the reasons are very clear. So it's almost mathematical. The only document which we have, which shows the mind of both the sides, India and US, is India-US joint statement. It was signed on February 6th or 7th, and it says that US will be lowering its reciprocal tariffs from 25% to 18%. In return, India will be giving A, B, C, D, E, F, G concessions to the US. But now US side of concession, that is lowering of tariff, reciprocal tariff, that has gone in the thin air. Supreme Court of the US on February 20th, they said that reciprocal tariffs are illegal. Trump doesn't have power to impose them. Now US side has nothing to offer to India. So how India can offer so many things already agreed?
Then why is India agreeing to the deals so far? Because what we see is other countries asking US to come on the table again and renegotiate the deal.
So India-US joint statement happened on February 6th, and the Supreme Court judgment came after 2 weeks on February 20th. Because of that, everybody now can see very clearly that there is nothing for the US to offer to India or to any other country. You do an FTA with US, don't do an FTA with US, you'll be forced with the same tariffs. So what's the point in doing an FTA with US? There is no point.
There's no point. Mr. Srivastava, you have been part of many such deals from the government side in the past when you were in the services. If you were advising the Indian negotiating team, what would constitute a good US deal, maybe from India's perspective?
US is an important trade partner for India, and I would love to have a free trade agreement with the US, but we should have the FTAs like we do with the rest of the world, or the rest of the world we do with each other.
Like what?
Both the sides agree to give concessions to each other. Here, US doesn't give any concession. They are only asking for demanding concessions from Indian side. They have yet to find what they are offering us. It's not clear to anyone what the US is going to offer to us.
Then why are we so eager for the...
No, India is not eager. India is not eager at all. That's why it has been delayed.
How significant is the pressure on India in terms of opening the agriculture market, be it the dairy market, or adopting the GM food products in that case and providing agricultural access to the US? The other thing that I want to mention here is government says that it will not be impacting the agriculture and the small scale farmers, but on the other side, farmers are worried about it. There's a fear over there. Then what kind of deal is it? Or are we missing out something somewhere?
No, Ashish, you covered almost everything. Agriculture is a way of life for half the population. They depend on agriculture not for trade but for livelihood. And we have been very, very conservative in not opening the agriculture in any of the FTAs. But US is putting a lot of pressure. And the joint statement says that India agreed to cut tariffs on, say, fresh and processed fruits, animal feed, and some more items. But it also mentions many more items. Those items are not defined, so we don't know what. But Indian government is seized of this. They know the position of the farmers. It will be bad for the farmers, and that's why we have not agreed to include more deals. Ashish, I want to tell you why it's very important not to open the agriculture to US for 2-3 fundamental reasons. One, US is not only about market access. They have problems with our minimum support price system.
How?
So they say no, that's not tenable. Remove that. They want us to make our agriculture totally open to the world. So it's not only tariffs, it's not only opening, it's not opening for wheat and rice and ethanol and everything. They want you to fundamentally change the agriculture system. Government knows that it's not possible, government will not do it. Farmers know, they are resisting all along. So we cannot listen to the US in this.
I want to add one more question to the agriculture. Has India seen in the past, has it lowered the agriculture tariffs? Has it ever happened?
Oh my God, it has happened once and we paid very heavily for it.
When did it happen?
I'll take you back to 1960s. So
Oh.
it is a pre-Green Revolution era,
Okay.
and India was totally mostly dependent on import of wheat and rice from Europe and America and other countries. And so America says that when you are importing most of the things from us, so why don't you commit that in future you will not raise tariffs? Because anyway, you don't have anything you don't produce anything, you import only. So why import tariffs? Lower them to zero and commit never to raise them in future. So in the GATT, precursor to WTO, in their rounds in between around 1970, we agreed to make our bound tariffs on wheat and rice and skimmed milk powder to zero at the request or pressure from US. And then what happened is that soon we had green revolution. We started producing enough grains, and then we were worried about the imports. Boom and bust cycle, that imports from cheap imports will destroy our green revolution and our food security. So we wanted now our flexibility back to increase the tariffs, but it came with a price. In the GATT or WTO, once you commit not to increase your tariffs, and we committed to zero tariff under pressure from US. So we had to renegotiate with US and Europe, and they allowed us after negotiations for increasing tariffs on wheat and rice after extracting their pound of flesh. How? We had to decrease tariffs on cheese, butter, apples, many other fruits in return for this. So we agreed to lower the tariffs on wheat and rice under US pressure. We paid for it by we had to increase the tariffs. So you have to be very, very careful in future.
Mr. Srivastava, at least one thing is very clear that China's growing economic and geopolitical cloud, saying that USA realized one thing, that it would not be that easy to contain China the same way it did in 90s with Soviet Union. That is one thing, and the other thing is the Indo-Pacific strategy and China plus one strategy and supply chain diversification. These were designed to contain China's rise, but now we see that they have fallen short of the objective.
The US strategy for containing China, I don't find it deep enough. Lot of talk is there, but on ground, very little is there. For example, supply chain resilience. Now, China processes more than 80% of the critical minerals. They produce 85% of the laptops, smartphones, solar panels, all these things. So, if US really wants China plus one strategy, they have to support manufacturing in some other countries like Vietnam or India or Thailand or Mexico. Or no, US is not doing that. US is doing a lot of theoretical work. For example, they will make Quad. They will prod countries like India, ASEAN, Japan, and other countries to counter China. But all these countries, more so ASEAN, Japan, South Korea, they're so dependent on China. Their supply chains are totally enmeshed with China. Now, what happens is that even if you don't want to import from China, what is happening is, suppose I take the example of solar panels. US doesn't want to import solar panels from China. So what is happening? Solar cells or wafers are being made in China. They move to Vietnam.
Rerouting.
Or solar cells are being made in China. They move to India. And from there, they move to US. So ultimately, US is buying Chinese goods.
Okay.
If I want to replace China, then a deeper strategy for alternate manufacturing locations and all those things are required. These were all at the talk level, but never materialized. I'll give you one example. When India tried to bring manufacturing of laptops in India a few years back, so we started with issuing one notification that we are restricting import of laptops from the world, so that firms can manufacture in India. US, not China. Firms were to shift from China to India in that, and they would have been shifting, but not the China, but the US was putting pressure on India to remove that restriction because their companies who are making in China, they should not be troubled. So US talks one thing about the strategy, but it never works on that assiduously. In fact, it's counterproductive many times.
Mr. Srivastava, let us come to the India-UK part now. Government calls it mother of all deals. Before coming to your views, sir, I want to understand from you, sir, though we have signed the deal, almost it would be concluded this month, there are stringent British quality laws and the regulatory standards are also very high. I want to ask you, Mr. Srivastava, are our MSMEs ready for this transition? Because it would take a real effort from their side.
Our exports to UK last year were about $14 billion. Half the exports they will be benefiting from the duty reduction. Other half already have zero tariffs. So the half which will be benefiting are mostly produced by MSMEs like garments, made-ups, low-end engineering goods, gems and jewelry items. But UK, we know UK is a high-end market, rich consumer market where per capita income is more than 50,000 pounds there. So just by cutting price through duty reduction is not going to help. MSMEs, they have to invest in production upgradation. Without that, they are not going to gain. And big firms who can certify their factory, they can obtain the certifications as prescribed by the European or UK based buyers. Only they will gain from this.
It doesn't look that easy happening on the ground.
We have one example. I agree with you, Ashish. It's not easy, and MSMEs, most of them, they may not be able to do that.
to do that.
We have one example. We were negotiating the FTA with Japan in 2008 to 10. It was signed in 2010-11. And Japan, like UK, is a rich country. They were importing all their garments. We thought we should ask them to import all the garments from us at zero tariff. They agreed for 0 to 0 for garments and made-ups. But our exports have not increased. Exports of garments have not increased just because of the reason you mentioned. They are a high-end market. They need much more than price cut on standards, quality maintenance, certifications. Unless Indian companies do that, there's little chance to gain market access in the developed countries.
When we talk about the FTAs, one point is that they should attract large and stable FDIs. Do you think the FTAs that we are signing are ensuring that? Seeing the recent FTAs with European, one is the European one and the other is with New Zealand, that includes investment facilitation provisions. But what we see is they fall short of offering investor protection and binding dispute settlement mechanism. So that's big contention somewhere. Won't they impact the flow of FDIs?
We have both two types of stories, opposing stories on this. Linkage between FTAs and investment, linkage between tariffs and investment. One is Indian example. We take the example of automobiles. So we have one of the highest tariffs in the world on automobiles, 100%, 125%, because tariffs are very high. Imported vehicles were very, very expensive. So most of the world, they came to India, they started manufacturing in India. Toyotas, Hyundais, Ford, everybody is manufacturing in India. And Hyundai has made India the hub of its small car exports to the world. So high tariff walls helped India. So India has not offered automobile tariff concessions in most of its FTAs. Because second example is Australia. In 1980s, Australia has about 10 automobile companies and 90% of the cars on Australian roads were Australian built. Now suddenly somebody got a great idea that tariffs at 45% Australia are very high. We have to cut them to make it competitive. So they cut the tariff from 45% to 5% in next few years. And all the 10 stopped manufacturing. A lot of pressure from import was there. All the 10 stopped manufacturing. Right now, almost all the cars on Australian roads are imported cars. So Australian automobile industry got wiped out because of lower tariffs. Indian automobile industry thrived because of high tariff walls. So I say people talk always that FDI and FTAs are linked. No, no. All types of
different.
examples in the world are there. Suppose one undeveloped African country is there. You can sign bids with a whole of the world. No investment will come because your country is not ready. Systems are not ready. You have to focus on making good systems, promoting ease of doing business, and then investment will come, not through FTA alone or
You need to have proper mechanism. You write in one of the articles, and I quote you, most of the FTA partners are already open economies with low tariffs. Average most favored nation tariffs are close to zero in Singapore and below 4% in countries like Japan and Malaysia. So, what does it mean if we talk about it? If we are having a deals with such countries, what does it mean, sir? Already, there's little to gain from such FTAs when 0% from their side, and we are reducing. In fact, it is helping them. How do you explain this all?
I agree with you and will support your argument through some examples. Suppose India's tariff on a particular machine is 30%. And so whole of the world supplying the machine of say $100, they'll be paying $130. Indian consumer will be paying $130, $100 plus 30% tariff. Now average tariff say in Europe is less than 3%, America is less than 3%, Singapore is almost 0%. So if I am supplying the machine to say Singapore and the tariff is 100% and the value is $100, after the FTA it will remain $100. I'll not get anything. So while Singapore exporter supplying to India will get an edge of $30 over its global competitors, Indian exporters will rarely get the edge.
Rarely get the edge.
Rarely get the edge. And there is no design defect in the FTA. It's the way our tariff schedules are. We are high tariff countries, and when we lower the tariffs through the FTAs, 20% is 0% or 100% to 0%, the partner country gain huge benefits.
Mr. Srivastava, then what I asked you in the beginning, how we are redesigning the FTAs, if this is the basic problem that still exists for India? That means we don't have any kind of headroom to work on it?
There is no headroom on this if you want to do FTAs with the developed countries where tariffs are very low.
By default.
Very low by default. They're low for everybody. You have an FTA, you don't have an FTA. And that's why we know why our exports are increasing, but imports are increasing at double the speed. If we have to gain through FTA, without FTA, we have to increase our competitiveness. Then only we can increase our exports. The countries like ASEAN, Japan, South Korea, they are one of the most competitive economies of the world. And that's why our imports from them, they are high. So imports are high because our high tariffs are coming to lower tariffs and they are more competitive. Exports are low because we are less competitive in most of the product groups and their tariffs are very low already. So our exported.
And the issue is getting compounded by inverted duty structures?
Inverted duty structure is a major worry right now. For example, aluminum. So aluminum metal, if tariff in India is 7.5%, but using the metal, I make aluminum door or say for use in aircraft or cars. Aluminum door can come from ASEAN countries at zero tariffs in India. But aluminum, I have to buy, say, from China, with which I don't have an FTA at 7.5% tariff. So why anybody will make the doors in India? So this is called inverted duty structure, when the duty on input is higher than the duty on the finished product. So this is against Make in India. And right now with so many FTAs, it's very difficult to contain. Government tries to identify the pressing items which are hurt by inverted duty structure. But because of so many FTAs, it's almost next to impossible to contain this.
Sir, where do we stand in terms of when we look at Vietnam? And other thing is, where do we stand with respect to China, sir, in the overall trade?
So let's talk about Vietnam first. Vietnam has done wonders.
Have they won the battle against India when we were talking about China plus one strategy?
No, first I'll say what they did and then I'll respond to this. Respond to this. So what Vietnam did is they followed a model of opening their country completely to the MNCs, completely to the FTAs. For example, their FTA with European Union, they allowed all the agriculture products to be imported in Vietnam. So there is no protection there according to their local agriculture. We cannot do that. Second, they European firms they can enter Vietnam. They can bid for even a city level or the village level construction project. So local Vietnamese contractors and European big MNC contractors, no differentiation. So Vietnam has opened its country. So their model is let others come and operate on us. So because of that, we see their exports rising. It's all MNCs. They are working. They are making things there, exporting to other countries with which Vietnam have FTAs. But the problem right now, Vietnam is surviving and thriving on the exports. And one major issue is that most of the exports in electronics they come via Samsung, which produces 60% of its product in Vietnam. But the problem in such a strategy is that tomorrow, if some other country offers better terms, say Cambodia, where labor costs are very low, and they don't ask you to follow even environmental norms, then most of these MNCs they will shift to some other countries. So what will happen to your country? Only debris will be left. We are a big country; we cannot afford that. So Ashish, we have to understand, trade plus GDP, export and GDP ratio. Smaller countries like Vietnam or Singapore, their trade to GDP, export to GDP ratio is Vietnam is about 100, Singapore is more than 200. They can afford all these things. But big countries like China, India, US, we cannot afford that. So, so export to GDP ratio in India is about 20%. In China, about 20-21% only. Their economy is big, so their exports are very big. America, how much is the export to GDP ratio? 11 to 12% only. Big economies, they have lot to protect. They take decisions to grow their economy. Exports is an outgrowth, essential outgrowth of an economy. They try to make all of the economy efficient. They protect their consumers. They protect their agriculture people, and that's how the country grows. It's not that I allow free play to MNCs in my country. We cannot afford. No big country does that. China does not do that. US doesn't do that. Even Japan doesn't do that. So India has also not done that.
India has not done that. Where do we stand in front of China? Are we far, far, far behind, or at least we are trying to catch up somewhere?
So if I talk about the positives, China is about 5 to 6 times bigger economy than us, and we were comparable economy in 1980s. So they have done far better than us in the past 30-40 years, and we could have done almost all those things. Uh, Till 90s, we were ahead of China in making APIs. We were making more hardware, computer hardware than China, many other things. But after that, in 90s, we did a good thing of liberalization, but we had no focus on manufacturing things. Many of our manufacturers, they turned traders. Most of our guys in many sectors, I should not name them. And China was building capacity after capacity, not only in the low tech sectors like shoes and shirts, but even the highest end sector like robotics or semiconductors. So China focus, single minded focus was there. And any country with that focus can do, any big country with that focus can do. We are much behind China, but nothing stops us to go in that direction. I say, suppose we are importing 10,000 items from China and Vietnam. How many of these we can make in India? For example, why we need to import knives, sharpeners, nuts and bolts, small motors? You have been making these for more than 50 years. You have to identify 10,000 such products, and technology is not a problem. We should reverse engineer them to the world class. And we can do all those things. We have to focus, identify 10,000 products, make appoint a person to head that particular product mission for each of 10,000 products and give him free hand, and we can make most of them.
So currently we are not doing that.
Currently we are not doing that. And why I am saying that, you see our import profile, what we import from China, it's not only high end products. We import many things which we have been making
For the years.
for years. So we have to focus on product level. We forgot being product nation. We talk more about policies and products, projects. You have to focus only on products, and that's the only salvation for India, I see.
That is all from ET Digital side. Thank you, Mr. Srivastava, for your time. Thank you very much.